Chapter 6, The Yoga of Meditation. About this chapter. To understand this chapter fully, one can read the commentary by Swami Chinmayananda, but here is a little summary of that commentary. First, know that the Bhagavad Gita is set up in a way that elaborates and explains an ancient and sacred Vedic mantra, Tvam Asi, which translates to that thou art in English. The first 6 chapters constitute a description of Tvam, which is the thou part. It is about understanding oneself. In chapter 2, Krishna described a man of perfection. Arjuna would like to be such a person as he already knew himself to be a great warrior at his best times. Perfecting his role was intriguing for him. Chapter 3 spoke about the path of how to take right actions through the understanding of karma yoga. This involved equipoise and self-control from senses that lead to a restless mind that may get in the way of right action from distractions through the senses. More clarification came from chapter 4 through Krishna's description of renunciation of action in knowledge. How even in the midst of action, one can remain balanced and centered from a focus on the greatest or highest good, from the benefit of knowledge of man's life and mind. Chapter 5 described the way of renunciation further by avoiding selfish motives or taking credit for actions to oneself by working through the spirit of helping the greater majority. Arjuna has now heard about renouncing the agency of action and also the fruits of action. This is in order to be released from the vasana bondages that one carries from lifetime to lifetime, or even day to day. Arjuna is, as any intelligent person would be, perplexed by how first he was told to act, then to understand through knowledge of man's inherent tendencies and natural gunas and vasanas, and now finally to still act, but with equipoise in his thoughts, words, and actions. How would this be possible? Sannyasa was described as the renunciation of agency, and true yoga, which is the union with the higher self, is the same. Flip sides of the same coin, as it were. So action and knowledge work together to create the yogi. Krishna in this chapter discusses how a sage that is attuned with yoga can do so through action or inaction, as has been described earlier. It is the union aspect that is most important. The yogi here is not attached to sense objects or to the actions that he participates in for the highest good. When a man is in high activity mode, he is not likely to be able to settle the mind easily. When he is in a state of quietude, he is able to reflect deeper without sense agitations. Then he can become completely engaged in the greater truth about the higher self. In fact, in this chapter, Arjuna learns most clearly that the greatest fall of man is his fall from his higher self into a lower self in thoughts, words, judgments, criticisms, and actions. In this chapter, chapter 6, Krishna shares with Arjuna that a man must lift himself by his own higher self, which is the friend that is eternally with him at all times, as Krishna is with Arjuna. Krishna mentions that it is only the lower self that can consciously do this, and this lower self can also let himself fall too. Falling would be into the lower self pursuits of short-term selfish pleasures and gains and taking full credit or blame for the same, and rising would be to the higher self for eternal peace and steadiness from a union with the divine. Krishna warns that once lifted, man should not allow the higher self to fall down again, as though the lower self is a friend when he has conquered himself by his higher self. The unconquered self is like an enemy. Arjuna is reminded that the supreme self is peaceful and self-controlled and handles all dualities in life with the same even measure. The body, mind, and intellect are all included in this section, as the even temperament is described specifically towards the dualities of heat and cold, pleasure and pain, honor and dishonor. As you can imagine, man can feel these experiences in body, mind, or intellect, or a combination of any of these. Furthermore, Krishna describes such a person to be unruffled by any circumstance, whether good or bad, including environments and company, whether it is foolish or wise. Arjuna is shocked. How could a person be like this, and what good is it to give up all enjoyments and pleasures? Krishna shares that such a person experiences a satisfied contentment that is unchanging and unshakable. In such a space, no gain can bring any extra joy, nor can any loss bring sorrow. This chapter speaks of the awakening of the soul to experience absolute bliss. Now Arjuna is more intrigued, yet still skeptical. He wonders what could possibly help a man achieve such a divine union, and that is why this chapter is about meditation. This chapter explains how meditation practice prepares a mind to be so steady. During the meditation, one is to sit steady, alone, and free from hope, renouncing endless plans for accumulating more, and free from greed, saving, hoarding, protecting possessions. The position for meditation is described as sitting with the body, neck, and head aligned and erect, with the eyes gazing steadily at the tip of the nose. Celibacy is suggested, and no fear while the mind concentrates on union with the divine as a result of the highest goal in life, which is liberation, moksha, nirvana. Moderation is mentioned as necessary in eating, sleeping, working, and in recreation for such yoga. During meditation, whenever the mind wanders, it is suggested to bring it back to the higher self. When the mind is at peace, all passions calmed and freed from past deeds, realization can happen, which allows the experience of unlimited bliss while living this life experience. In this chapter, Arjuna learns that a yogi, sometimes referred to as a mystic in other commentaries, is the one with perfect self-control and meditation who, on realizing the higher self, becomes the higher self. Such a person feels the distress and happiness in others as intimately as if they were his own. Although Arjuna considers this as a beautiful idea, we need to remember that he is a very intelligent and practical man. He trusts Krishna fully, yet his human intelligence brings up questions that any of us would ask in a similar situation. He mentions that he cannot calm his restless mind, and Krishna confirms that this is not easy, but is in fact quite possible with proper intention and technique. Arjuna then asks about the major concern in his mind at this time. What if he truly tried to become this man of equipoise and then died? He would not have enjoyed his brave and steady thoughts and actions as a man, and he may not have truly been perfect or enlightened, and would not receive benefit from that either. Arjuna asks Krishna with a full heart to clear this concern for him through logic and reason. It's important to understand here that the Gita encourages each individual to truly understand their actions through contemplation that leads to their own understanding. This is not for the mind to just randomly create ideas and interpretations, but for the self, lower self, to unite with the higher self for guidance. This is what Arjuna is doing as he asks Krishna his questions. Here is where Krishna elaborates on the fact that no birth is by accident, and that each life is a continuation of the life before. Again, even if we look at only day-to-day experiences as a full life, the thoughts and ideas that were present in a person the day before are the thoughts and ideas present the next day. Since Krishna also has good awareness of his and Arjuna's own experience and past lives leading to this one, he is able to share with Arjuna this detail clearly. He is also making sure that Arjuna knows that it is no accident in this life that he is in this space. He has been preparing for such a time through lifetimes, including this one, in which Arjuna has already learned much from Vedic scriptures. Krishna shares that tomorrow has no arbitrary beginning, but is a perfect continuation of yesterday, modified by the thoughts and actions of today. He shares that the joys of this life are also enjoyed by such a seeker of union with the absolute bliss of the higher self. Krishna continues in this chapter to share with Arjuna the experience for an individual whose human experience is stopped by an untimely death or through his own falling into a sensuous temptation. He lets Arjuna know that the intention of a true seeker is never in vain, as the doer of good never experiences a woeful end in this life or the afterlife, and the results are based on the intensity of the mental attitude and spiritual aptitude in each. He mentions two different directions for all good actions in this world. One is when actions are performed with desires, and the other is when actions are performed in a spirit of dedicated love and divine worship. He explains that since reactions to actions depend completely upon the motives that propel the actions, selfish and selfless actions each produce different results. This shows different routes that are followed by different good people to get to the same pinnacle of perfection. When people are acting in life from a yogic perspective and the motive is the desire for heavenly enjoyments, they will reach such a plane after death too, which allows them to fully enjoy to their heart's desire. When that point is reached, they will take a birth again and will be born into pure and or prosperous families, which allows their spiritual progress to continue. When people are acting in life through a spirit of selfless dedication, they will be reborn into a family of wisdom, such as wise yogis, which also allows his desire of spiritual fulfillment to be pursued. The spiritual journey is not lost in a new life. The right circumstances will arise in each man's life for remembering what has already been learned through many lifetimes, and he will rediscover the knowledge that is already lying dormant within. This allows the person to strive more than before for the union with self-perfection. What is also interesting about this chapter is that Krishna mentions that in future lives, a man who has begun his journey in yoga will behave in spite of himself, meaning that he will not be able to deny what he has already learned. Like an educated or cultured man cannot act like an idiot for long. The opposite being true as well, as someone who has never taken the time or effort to learn in this life or previous cannot play the part of appearing educated or cultured before his own thoughts, words, and actions will reveal the truth. Other commentators on this teaching mention that the person who even wishes to know such yogic control passes beyond the ritualistic portion of religions. Other commentators on this teaching mention that the person who even wishes to know such yogic control passes beyond the ritualistic portion of religions and moves beyond basic fascination with material wealth or the sensuous life to further practice self-control, contemplation, and meditation as he is familiar with the higher satisfactions. Meditation allows for an experience of vibrant silence, where even noble traits are completely wiped off. When the mind is rendered fully without any impressions of duality, this means it is vasana-less. And this is the end of the mind, which is a bundle of vasanas. When the mind has ended, this is the ultimate goal, that of self-rediscovery, higher self-rediscovery. In this chapter, Arjuna In this chapter, Krishna encourages Arjuna to understand that the yogi is superior and nobler than ascetics, superior and nobler than men of knowledge, and superior and nobler than men of action. And he encourages Arjuna to strive to be a yogi in this very life, as it is something that can be achieved in the here and now. In this chapter, meditation, where the person is fully pouring the ego out, which includes attachments to the body, mind, and intellect, to merge with his higher self, is the best type of meditator. And such a path of meditation is described as a way to reach the highest possibilities in life. Chapter 6, the Yoga of Meditation for the Healthcare Guru. Knowing now that this chapter is concluding the tvam, or thou, aspect of man's life, for those focused on healthcare work or personal direction, this is a reminder that for us to know ourselves is the focus of these first 6 chapters. How much time do we spend in actually understanding ourselves? We have all taken time to understand knowledge through our academic journeys, and most of us truly feel like good people. But contemplative time spent on understanding our deeper motives, intentions, and fears is often avoided until, like Arjuna, we are faced with a particular moment in time that almost forces us to look at ourselves differently. To follow from the chapter, remember that we have already understood our own calling if or when we have considered our choice to do the work we are doing from some inherent alignment with healthcare work for ourselves or others. Chapter 2 helped us remember the reasons for choosing such a field. In Chapter 3, when we are reminded about action in karma yoga, most of us can say we have taken the right actions to serve the world from a good heart space through our actual actions in work. In Chapter 4, we were reminded that knowledge is even more important than action, and we know that truly understanding the limitations of our own actions, even when performed through good intentions, and the actions may result in side effects. Some expected and others not, and most have learned how to help people from the best of their own knowledge. In Chapter 5, we suddenly learn about the fact that both of these styles can lead to the same goal, yet the mind that is humbly understanding that a higher consciousness is directing actions and knowledge through us is actually doing a good part of the work we are doing. Yet many would like to take credit for good outcomes or blame themselves or others for unhappy outcomes. So we were reminded through Krishna's conversation with Arjuna to renounce the attachment to outcome and the ownership for the work too. There was reminding about individual vasanas and selfish motives or intentions that may drive even noble actions. A very clear mind which is devoid of attachment to either positive or poor experience of the human world of duality was discussed. Hopefully, you have considered these areas for yourself as we delve a little deeper into the application of Chapter 6 for our healthcare experiences. Let's make sure that each person working in healthcare, and especially those caring for others, is aware of their own motives and inherent vasanas. We may notice a bit of critical self-talk here when we realize we may do work more for the personal desire from money gained, the titles achieved, or successes in other ways, like through fame or praise from others, or sometimes the motive is even from fear of loss of one of these or similar ideas that one already has achieved, all of which may stem from some vanity of some sort. And only an individual will know his or her own truth in this regard. Which means we definitely know our own truths through sincere self-reflection and introspection. Then, like the honest and sincere Arjuna, any of us could come to a realization that such satisfactions may truly be our own driving force, and we can be overcome with feelings or thoughts of the impossibility of the suggestions that Krishna has made to Arjuna. How could anyone seek to be a person of perfection when the worldly experiences are so satisfying? We can remember that worldly experiences are finite and dualistic. They are enjoyed for a finite time, and then other experiences are suffered for a finite time. Yet the higher consciousness experiences an infinite and eternal bliss. How could anyone reach such a space is Arjuna's question. And likely anyone who is curious about this question will certainly be curious, although likely doubtful, about experiencing such consistent bliss too, which brings us to this chapter. Meditation has become very popular all around the world today, and no more so than within the healthcare world. Medical practitioners of all sorts have learned the value of sitting quietly for even just short periods of time and focusing on the breath for its amazing health benefits of managing various health conditions, from insomnia to anxiety to elevated blood pressure to even cancer. Yet understanding the yoga of meditation is lost to most. This union with the divine energy that is with each of us every day is the practice of meditation as suggested by Krishna to Arjuna, and is what mystics, sages, and saints have practiced and tried to teach by example for centuries. Historically, people would retreat to private locations, often in forests, to practice this union. And today, we know that such a style of experience is not likely or possible for even those who may like to do so. In this chapter, we learn that the highest union with the divine through meditation does not require isolating oneself from the world. Remember, Arjuna is getting this training on a battlefield. This is to remind each person that no matter what their life circumstance, meditation and practice as a yogi needs only the full intention to do so. Many healthcare professionals, like much of the society around, find there is no time to practice this, even for 15 minutes per day. Yet those who have reached a spot, even for a moment, of divine union, find a way to make this a regular part of their daily experience, and those will likely move to longer periods of meditation purely for the bliss of the experience itself. In this chapter, we are reminded that a person doing any action from this space in life is heading to the same goal of perfecting himself or herself. A person taking mindful actions through knowledge gained about duality in thinking, speaking and acting from such knowledge, is also on the same path too. And he or she who is using both interchangeably through meditation and contemplation, leading to right action through awareness of the divine hand or friend, working through their human form, is able to achieve this divine union most directly. We are reminded that from the human mind, body, and intellect, a person can work from their lower self, or the same tools can allow the same person to work from the higher self. And there is enjoyment all along the way if this is recognized and appreciated. Remember, this requires an intention to dissolve or empty the ego connected with the body, mind, and intellect. But there is an understanding that there is no punishment for falling from the higher self back to the lower self, as long as the intention and direction keep moving one into spiritual improvement. This does require an appreciation for all others having this same journey and same guidance within themselves, which can help to pull people away from judging others and truly become more forgiving and compassionate to all in their journeys. In healthcare, practitioners do have a tendency to feel they know best. They have studied, they have taken regular continuing education to improve and expand their knowledge base, and often clients or patients will even say, "You tell me what to do," or "You're the one who should know," or in some jarring moments, "You should have known." That's a lot of pressure for those working with healthcare, again, for themselves or for others. The pressure is intensified because most caring practitioners are saying the same words to themselves. This is the consequence of feeling as if we are doing what has to be done. Associations and governing bodies give us such permission, which is then also the measure for our patients. Yet everyone knows that even the best healthcare delivery does not come with any guaranteed outcomes. What each healthcare guru can shed light on from understanding this chapter is that if sincere meditative yoga and conscious practice is happening with non-selfish intentions as the driving force for the care, the results come through the power of an unseen force that will come through this practice. In contemplating this, practitioners may remember that we may help clients with the quantity of years, months, or days lived, and many times we may help the quality of life too. Yet neither is achievable without the help from an unseen force. We can notice that even the same treatment for what looks like the same condition is helpful for one but not another, or the same conversation is understood by one patient but not another, though both are similarly educated. Why? Remember that just like the healthcare practitioner, each patient is also carrying their own vasanas for their own journeys, filled with fears, intentions, expectations, and beliefs. Most practitioners know at least a little about each patient's personal family or life history in this life, but even this does not mean they know everything. Thinking about any past life experiences, which could be as recent as an event yesterday that has not been shared with the practitioner today, is impossible to know or even guess. Do give each client the benefit of an understanding and appreciation for the known and unknown aspects of the client's circumstances. Each healthcare practitioner can remind themselves to maintain humility and even-mindedness in success or failure with any experience without judging themselves or the client either. This is not to say each practitioner cannot continuously improve. Each experience can remind us how to do things better while maintaining honest and ethical practice. The most significant improvement in any experience in personal or professional life is to think, speak, and act from one's own area of expertise and the understanding of different life journeys that evolve just as we do. What surely helps create such compassionate understanding is the regular practice of true meditation. Are you utilizing this tool? Some may choose to pray, and this too can be a divine union if the intention is to do so. Otherwise, it can be a ritualized experience which also has value, but is not the same as the conscious desire to unite with the soul or higher consciousness. This blissful experience is available to all at any time from a space of sincere intention and desire for such a union. This then allows a higher consciousness to flow through such a practitioner to help bring the best of our own higher selves to flow into our work and care. Once one has experienced such a place to work from, it is unlikely they will ever go back to working from the lower self. Do remember that climbing back up to the higher self is through one's own efforts, and when one has been there, the satisfaction and joyful bliss that comes from the space will draw a practitioner to be there more and more often. And this is truly a way of life which is easy, infinite, eternal, and blissfully heart-filling. By now, many may feel that this information sounds wonderful, but so abstract and likely not possible for the average person. If you are reading this, you have already shown that you are not average, as your life experience has led you here, and remember that no experience is an accident. It all happens in divine timing. And many would feel what a loss it would be to let go of sensory enjoyments or the satisfaction of money that is earned. Do remember that these experiences can still be enjoyed, especially if a person has made these outcomes not the driving force of their work, but a perk along the way. One of the things this chapter also discusses to clarify this experience is to look at the waking, dreaming, and sleep space. If one of us were to have a nightmare in our sleep and then to wake up into the waking state, we will be very happy to see the nightmare was not real, remembering that to the dreaming mind it seemed very real. Yet there is no sorrow in letting it go. Even if it's a beautiful dream, we can wake up with possibly a new hope for the day ahead, but likely no attachment to the dream itself, except for maybe a smile in remembering it. In deep sleep, the mind and body are not being used, and there is just an empty space that we remember as a good night's sleep or not a good night on waking. A similar experience happens when one goes from working from the realm of lower consciousness to working from the realm of higher consciousness. Like waking from a great deep sleep and feeling fantastic on waking from a nightmare, and appreciating that what one is waking into also feels fantastic relatively. This is the fresh start feeling that one practicing meditation sincerely can experience. Know that it is a wonderful awakening of the soul.